Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch One, and thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at the IWC Aquatimer 2000. This is reference 356808, 44 millimeters in brushed and polished stainless steel. You can see this 2000 meter IWC Aquatimer and buy it on our website, watchyouwant.com. And if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. You can see on my wrist 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference. The Aquatimer 2000 may be a monster. It might be a true sea monster in every sense. Big, bulky, and at home in the depths, but it's not overbearing on the wrist. Now you can see it's actually quite thin, only 14.5 millimeters thick. Because of the somewhat conical caseback, it actually sits even lower, and while it does have a slightly cantilevered outward cropping bezel, it's so low to begin with that once it nestles down, you should have no trouble wearing this one with any kind of casual long sleeve clothing or sports jacket. Now 44 millimeters across the round of the case, you can see its profile from overhead on my wrist, but what you can also see is that from lug to lug, it actually has a decent span, being 51 millimeters between the pivot points of the end of the lug where it actually abuts the conforming end link bracelet. Now if you want to seek the outermost outcropping, that is the flare of the bracelet, how far it projects rigidly, it does project out to this point just under my thumb. That's not the pivot point of the bracelet, but it is 57 millimeters across. So if you wanted to plan for how this is going to look on your wrist, remember there is a little bit of rigidity at these two outboard outcroppings. Otherwise, you're looking at a superbly flexible bracelet, and you can see how easily it pulls not just straight down, but actually bows slightly inward so that you can get a nice secure fit on a smaller wrist with a tighter curve. Now the watch has a lot of heft, so when I talk about fit and feel, I really have to emphasize the feel part of the equation. On my wrist, I'm always aware of this watch. The substance of the case, reinforced for 2,000 meters or 6,600 feet, plus the full bracelet and the substantial single-fold trigger-actuated deployment means that the watch is always going to have that substance to it that you expect of a true luxury watch. Even above and beyond those watches with a utility bent, this watch feels like a Cadillac on the wrist. Now you can see what it does have is an exception from the usual practice of putting a colossal clasp on a colossal dive watch, because the IWC deployment with its twin trigger is actually quite low in profile, so it's not going to project as much and become a hazard to both itself and your desk if you do go desk diving at the office. With twin trigger release, it's very secure when closed, and you can see how beautifully finished it is inside and out. On the outside, beautiful brushed with an engraved IWC marquee, and on the inside, alternately perlage machine turned and polished. Quite beautiful and beautifully done. That's a nicely thought out clasp, but it's the bracelet that's the real highlight here. Now, in the 1990s, IWC pioneered its fully sizable modular bracelet, and you can see each one of these dimples on the inboard link is actually a sizing trigger. What that does is it allows you to fully size each side of this bracelet, so each one of these links is removable, and not without a tool. Actually, you can remove each individual link from this bracelet using nothing but toothpicks, and you can do it in seconds. Now what the watch also features is IWC's Aquatimer quick release bracelet system. This, using a series of pull tabs on the bottom, is actually a system that was licensed from Richemont's sister company Cartier, and it makes removing the bracelet for cleaning or replacement with a strap a piece of cake. You can literally take it off and put it on in a matter of seconds. Now you can see it goes back on as easily as it came off. That's a nice feature to have, and again, no resort to jeweler's tools necessary. The case is wonderfully spare. You can see although it's massive from the side, from the top, almost the entire view of the watch is the bezel and the dial, as it should be on a dive watch. And the bezel is definitely a cut above. Now it is a unidirectional winder, and it's a little bit more refined than its rivals, because unlike ceramic, which can appear a bit flat and two-dimensional, or aluminum, which, let's face it, in the era of ceramic just feels cheap, this is a beautifully sapphire-capped, fully loomed dive bezel. So it has the richness, the gloss, the almost wet look of sapphire, with that same scratch resistant we've come to accept from sapphire crystals on the center of watches over the dial. So you get the expectation of long-wearing durability here. It's also tremendously practical because with the bezel itself capped, luminescent material can be applied and protected from abrasion. And you can see that the dial itself, with shocks of silver, white, black, and yellow, is the quintessential tool watch. This feels like an engineer's dream come true, and it's not even an IWC Ingenieur. But since it is such a special watch with a diving bent, I think it's time for a Lume Shot. Let me just kill the lights. And we're back. Now you can see this one's actually beautifully loomed and fully loomed with special distinctions to allow a rapid reference and mental note to distinguish between the hours, the minutes, as well as the first 15 critical minutes of span on the diving bezel. I can't show you just how absolutely bright it is because I'm still dealing with the light of day outside, but you can see how IWC both fully looms the bezel and dial, while at the same time using two different types of luminova to differentiate. And now the light is back. So you can see this IWC Aquatimer 2000, a descendant of the great Ocean 2000 dive watches of the 1980s, carries the torch while adding aesthetic and technical refinements in the bracelet, in the quick change lugs, as well as the unique application of a flat sapphire over the fully loomed bezel. IWC advanced the state-of-the-art between 2006 and 2014 with the first generation of the reborn Aquatimers. This one's powered by an IWC caliber 30110, so the 30,000 series is based on ETA's thin and fine 2892A2, and that's important because it's largely responsible for this 2,000 meter diving watch being only about 14.5 millimeters thick. It sits nice and low. It's also a 42-hour power reserve automatic winder with a hacking function for synchronizing your dive timer or just setting to an atomic clock, as well as a quick cycling date for times when the watch may run down and you need rapid corrections. You can see this innovative and refined IWC Aquatimer 2000 on our website, watchyouwant.com.